If you want to get rich, you need to stop searching for the perfect idea and instead focus on how you can make an average idea sound amazing. And look, I mean, this doesn't just apply to you getting personally rich. This is also the way to aggressively grow your company, or even maybe just get people within your company, your boss or whatever, to listen to you and to become an influential voice. Regardless of the context, let me tell you that as the author of one of the world's best-selling strategy books, I have studied hundreds of ideas, and the ones that worked, the ones that really killed it and turned their industries upside down, really weren't all that special on paper. You know, they were fine, don't get me wrong, but they were nothing that would knock your socks off. The thing that actually made them special was their stories. The stories the founders and CEOs wrapped their ideas in. They were legendary. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to wrap your idea, regardless of how mediocre or trivial it might be, in exactly the same way. But first, look, you might be thinking, Alex, come on, really? What difference does the wrapping of the idea make, the framing? At the end of the day, it either works or it doesn't, right? No, absolutely not. This is totally the wrong way to think about it. I mean, I would say that whether an idea works or not is roughly 50% based on the substance of the idea, the cleverness of it, but it's 50% based on the style with which the idea is framed and sold to the people it needs to be sold to the organization, to the industry, to your partners, etc. So let's get into it. What are the ingredients? Well, I'm going to give you 4 of them. Let's get cracking. Number 1, be contrarian. You have got to be flipping the script. You do this by saying something like, look, everyone in our category thinks X, but we think Y. You aren't just offering an idea here, you're actually just disagreeing with the entire market. Now, being able to frame an idea like this is strategically important because it signals that you're probably breaking new ground in the category, which is exactly what you need to do. So there's that side of things, but it's also narratively important. You see, this is what makes an idea kind of spiky, sort of mischievous, dare I even say a bit naughty. And this is what people want to be involved in, don't they? Everyone likes to think of themselves as a bit of a renegade, bit of a rebel, even when, let's face it, we all know that they aren't really. Therefore, when you use this structure, you give them the opportunity and permission to live out this fantasy in a very safe, controlled, corporate kind of way. Okay, technique number 2, be the only. Now, nobody cares if your idea is better than the alternative ideas out there. You have to be the only one doing what you're doing. So you want to say something like, we are the only X, whatever your category is, or whatever the category of idea is, that does Y. And again, there are important strategic reasons for saying this, yes, but from a narrative perspective, what you're generating here is basically a kind of sense of specialness. You're like saying, we are the chosen ones, we are walking this lonely path, we're so brave, right? In a sense, you know, the contrarianism from point 1 is kind of like the intellectual meat of the idea, the thinking that it emerges from. And then this point is the doing part of the equation. This is what you're actually going to do because of that initial insight. Point 3, taking it to the next level, is to then raise the stakes. Now, when you think about it, your main competitor, generally speaking, it isn't really so much another company or another person, as much as it is just inaction, just nothing happening. Inaction from the customer, inaction from your boss, inaction from your team, whatever. Now, therefore, you can't just sell a positive vision of what you're creating. You also have to sell a negative vision of what the absence of it would be. What will happen if you actually just do nothing at all, and why would that suck? The structure you use here is just very simple. You just say, without this, ... and then you fill in the blank as to what will happen, either to the company or to the customer or to the world at large. Now, as an aside as well, I would add here that it's important to note that these stakes, they don't have to be like societally important issues. That might not be appropriate. They can just be maybe strategic issues for the company or for the person you're talking to. And finally, point 4, land the story, ram it home, is to paint a picture of ultimate success. What I mean here is that you have to imagine what it would be like if this idea was to be maximally successful, like beyond your wildest dreams successful, and then explore what the consequences of that success would be, the positive consequences. So you want to say something here like, if this works, it would mean that ... and then lay out whatever this fantasy scenario is. Now again, this might just be consequences for the company, this might be consequences for the industry, it might be consequences for the customer or the world at large. It very much depends on the nature of the idea. You know, I'm reminded here of the story about how Steve Jobs, who's like obviously the greatest corporate storyteller of all time, how he managed to woo John Scully from Pepsi to become the Apple CEO. Basically, he said to him, listen, John, do you want to spend the rest of your life selling sugar water, or do you want to change the world? That was an example of this technique in action. Now, obviously, Jobs was fortunate in some ways in that what Apple were doing genuinely did have the potential to be world-changing, and of course it was. And that doesn't exactly apply, to your local cardboard box manufacturer, but even so, it's still a good example of the principle that you can do on sort of higher or lower scales. So, everyone in our category thinks X, but we think Y. Therefore, we are going to be the only A that does B. Without this, such and such bad thing is going to happen. But with this, if it works, that would mean that something epic happens. See what I mean? This is tight. And remember, the general principle can be used for ideas both big and small. This could even be just about, pitching a change to your department's structure or something like that, You just need to tailor the language a little bit, but the same ideas hold true. This then is how you take a 6 out of 10 idea and you turn it into a 9 out of 10 idea, without improving the substance or the thinking at all. Interestingly, you'll find that it won't work on a 3 out of 10 idea, because a 3 out of 10 idea will actually probably be impossible to actually fit into this structure at all. It just kind of won't work. And that is good, because frankly, you shouldn't be really trying to sell a 3 out of 10 idea anyway. You've got to get to that 6 out of 10 threshold. And to do that, if you want to guarantee it, I encourage you to watch this video here, my ultimate strategy blueprint video, which will pretty much make sure that you're going to get there at minimum. And then you can come back to this video in order to narrativize it. Nice. So if you found this helpful, make sure that you subscribe right now, because there's plenty more heading your way.